Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Hello everyone, and welcome to Wealth Pathways, the Affluence Science Insights Podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Marie Stella, coming to your ears from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's learn together.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Wealth Pathways podcast. My name is Lu, and I'll be your host today. Today, we're talking about a topic that's quite close to my heart, which is building strong connections to grow your business. If you are starting out in your own business, or if you're interested in building one, then this topic is the right one for you. I remember growing up, people always say this: it doesn't matter what you know, but it matters who you know. And I never really thought about it. I didn't really think that it makes a difference, because I really thought, if you're doing the right thing and you're doing what you can, then you should make it. But life has taught me quite a few lessons. And even though I don't yet have my own business, I know for a fact, and I've heard from so many entrepreneurs and business men and women, that they have started growing their businesses only when they've built meaningful connections. So today, to talk to us about this topic, we've got a wonderful guest to join us. We've got Dr. ZaLonya Allen, and I would love to get her to introduce herself to you in a little bit. For now, let me just introduce you to our guest of the day. Dr. ZaLonya Allen is President and CEO of the National Entrepreneurs Association, a 501c3 nonprofit corporation created to empower entrepreneurs to grow and sustain successful businesses through monthly networking events, training conferences, and educational programs. In partnership with Comerica Bank and Dell Technologies, NEA offers the only national entrepreneur certification program of its kind, led by experienced entrepreneurs and college professors. The program now has over 250 graduates nationwide. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Allen. How are you today?
I'm great, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I was just saying to you that, I really love the Christmas spirit that you have. I know that for our audience, they might be wondering why you're talking about Christmas, because this might be released after Christmas. But I like the holiday season. So, just really want to throw that in case everyone's like, why does Dr. Allen look a little bit Christmassy? Well, that's why we're recording this just a little bit before Christmas. It's kind of end of year, right? It's a time for reflection. And I really love to know your reflection of the year, as well as a little bit more about your professional journey so far, and maybe some highlights from this year as well.
Absolutely. So it's been an amazing year for us at the National Entrepreneurs Association. We just completed our annual Entrepreneur and Small Business Conference, and it was a huge success. So that always happens toward the end of the year. So we always end the year on a high note. And then in December, we have a holiday party. It's called the Red Party Holiday Mixer. And we all wear red and just have a really festive time to end the year on a positive note. So it's been a really positive and great year.
Oh, amazing. I really love that. Thank you for sharing. It sounds really fun. I wish I could join you guys, but obviously quite hard. You're considering where we are. I also am curious about your journey, because I see in your bio that there's so many things that you have achieved in your career so far. It's quite an amazing journey. And I would love to know a bit more about, how you got here and why you decided to do what you're doing.
Absolutely. My background is very diverse in terms of my career, but I'll summarize it by saying I grew up in a family that was entrepreneurial. So my parents were always into entrepreneurship, owning real estate and properties. My mother loved to do hair, so she had a hair salon. And so I grew up around that. I always knew I would do something entrepreneurial. And when I struck out to do that, I found there was a lot that I didn't know. And so I decided to put together an event to help entrepreneurs understand entrepreneurship and how to start a business and do it effectively. And that led to the formation of the National Entrepreneurs Association, which I am now the founder, president, and CEO. And it's just been an amazing experience. We're a national organization. We have entrepreneurs from literally all over the world attend our events virtually. And all of my background professionally, I've worked in sales, I've worked in education, training, and business. And all of that background, I find that I'm using it now to put together our training programs and our conferences and events. So it's everything has just come together.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you for sharing. It sounds like the organization has gone international. You know, it doesn't seem to be just on the nationwide scale anymore. So that's very exciting.
Well, we're primarily national. However, we do get people from other countries who attend some of our open meetings sometimes. So, yes, we do have some international visitors.
Yeah, wonderful. I really admire what you have built so far. And I am sure we'll have a really great conversation because I'm sure that for you to be able to achieve what you have achieved now, it probably, I'm guessing, 80% networking, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but sounds like there's a lot of networking involved.
Absolutely. You are correct.
Thank you for that. Really excited to talk to you about the topic of the day. And before we jump in the topic, I would love to get to know you a bit better, just to know what kind of contents you consume and what are some of the important things in life for you would be. So this section is called Have You Met Dr. Allen? I'm going to ask you 5 questions about 5 things that you love or that are important to you. First thing first, what is your favorite book?
Oh, wow. I'm an avid reader, so I have lots of books that I love. But one of my favorite is The Power of Positive Thinking because it really started my journey into psychology and metaphysics and the power of your mind and the effect that positive thinking has on your entire life. So that's definitely one of my favorite books.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I haven't read that yet, so I'm going to put that on my list. Um, the second question is about a movie. What would be a movie that you've enjoyed recently?
Well, one of my favorite movies of all times is The Pursuit of Happiness. And it's not a new movie, but it's a movie that I watch periodically because it's about a gentleman who just struggled in life and he persevered. And through that perseverance, he finally achieved success. So I love those kinds of stories where people don't give up. They figure out a way to overcome their obstacles and ultimately achieve success in their life.
Wonderful. I really love that. You know what? I actually just watched that movie earlier this year. Can you believe
Wow.
it? It's a classic, right? But yeah, I for some reason just watched it because there's so many movies that I haven't watched. So yeah, I do love that as well. And yeah, probably should watch it again. It has a really great message. Um, Wonderful. Now, I know that you are our podcast guest. Actually, a lot of guests are not podcast listeners. I wonder if you are a listener, and if you are, what would be your favorite show?
I do listen to podcasts occasionally. Probably recently, I've been listening to Shannon Sharp, and it's called Club Shay Shay. And he has a lot of interesting guests on that show. He talks a lot about pop culture. So that's really interesting just to stay up on current events and people. And then the Joe Rogan podcast is really popular, and he has political guests on there. I recently saw Terrence Howard on there, who's a famous actor who talked a lot about science and mathematics. So it was just fascinating to watch this actor talk so much about academics. I mean, who knew he was that intelligent? So it was interesting.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I've known about the Joe Rogan show, but I've actually never listened to it. I really should. The first recommendation that you shared, though, is a new one for sure. I think you said the Shay Shay show or something like that.
Club Shay Shay.
Yeah, yeah, Club Shay Shay. It sounds so fun. So yeah, thank you for sharing. It sounds really fun. And next question is about your role model. I wonder if you have a personal role model in life, or maybe multiple role models, and if yes, then who are they?
Yes, I do. I just admire strong women. So my first role model, of course, is my mother, who is a very strong woman, and she taught me so much. And then I admire Michelle Obama, um, someone who also overcame a lot of adversity and challenge early in life. I admire Tina Turner. She was an amazing entertainer, and she also overcame a lot. And Maya Angelou, um, Serena Williams, there are a lot, but the common theme is just strong women that motivates me.
I love that. And, I also love that the theme is, strong women. And obviously you learn something from each woman. It's not like there's one person that emulates everything that you are, right? So I think that's the beauty of having role models and learning from different people. Thank you for sharing that. And finally, in this part, we would love to know if there's a course that has really inspired you. I'm sure you've probably taken many in your life and in your career, maybe something a long time ago that is still inspiring you could be a choice for this part?
Yes, I think my favorite course has been Introduction to Psychology. And that's because I used to always wonder how people got their personality. And even as a child, because everyone is so different. And in that course, I learned a lot about theories, specifically the environmental theory and how that impacts behavior and who you ultimately become, and genetics, how we have our mannerisms. A lot of times that is genetic based on your parents. So I just found that to be really fascinating. And that started my journey in psychology. And I ultimately ended up becoming a psychology major.
Beautiful. I love that. And we actually have a lot of shows here at Life Management Science Labs. And a common theme that I have found is a lot of our guests have background in psychology, including yourself. And yeah, it's just a wonderful space to be in because it's always so important to know why we have so many different, like you said, personalities and why we are the way we are, right? I just find that fascinating in the recent years, probably a part of growing, I guess. So, yeah, it's great to hear that because now that you mentioned introduction to psychology, I'm thinking maybe I should do that. Maybe I should take that course as well. It's always been on my list, we just never got around to doing that. So thank you for sharing. Now that we've got to know you quite a bit, I would say quite a bit better compared to where we were at the very beginning. I think we've warmed ourselves up to talk about today's topic, and I'm sure we're going to have a great time. So let's talk about building strong connections to grow your business. You are probably but the best person that we can talk to about this topic, because the program that you run have over 250 graduates. So I wonder what's happening there. We'll discover that very soon. First of all, let's talk a little bit about affluence, because that's what this show is about. Affluence, wealth, and so on. So many things come to mind when you hear that word. So I wonder what your personal definition of affluence would be.
My personal definition would be success, achieving success in everything that you do, from your career to your personal life, and being able to not only take care of your own needs, but those of your family and community and those around you. So when you become affluent, you are then in a position to give back and help others.
Yeah, I love that definition. And I probably would also think that, with this definition would come with a lot of, I guess, misconceptions that you probably notice from other people. And the reason why I say this is because, when I said affluence, you immediately go success. For some others, they probably would focus on money. Affluence means that I have a lot of money. That doesn't necessarily mean success, right? So it's kind of like, it's a very interesting space for all the definitions and things like that. So I wonder what you personally think people would have in terms of misconceptions when it comes to thinking about affluence.
Yeah, I would agree with that. When you say affluence, your mind might immediately go to money. And you may also think that people who are affluent are materialistic, or that they look down on others who may not be as successful. And that's not necessarily the case. I find that people who achieve affluence in their life, they give back. So they may donate to charities, they may donate their time and become mentors and help bring other people up, because they have information and knowledge and things that they can share with others.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think I've come across many quote unquote affluent people, and I find that just like what you say, there are different kinds of affluent people. Some really care about giving back and helping you. Some might look down on you, but I guess once again it kind of goes back to why they are the way they are. So we really don't know, but I do really appreciate those who that actually help others and give back. And I think it doesn't matter how much money they have, because I know for a fact that some people, they actually have a lot, but they never talk about it. And in fact, they give back a lot, while others who don't have as much tend to, or might, talk about that and use that as a weapon against others. So it just really depends. There's just so much about people, and each person is very different. So I guess at the end of the day, it's a choice. If you decide to chase or work on affluence and become an affluent person, it's a choice of what you want to focus on as well. So that's probably the interesting part about this whole conversation around affluence. And one of the things that we are discussing today is building strong connections, right? Because that would help us to grow our business and grow our affluence. That's why we're here to discuss this topic. So, as an expert in this space, how would you define networking?
Yes, networking is really about building relationships and building connections that are going to help you achieve success, make connections, um, advance your career, whether that be a promotion or job, or build your business and get clients. But it's all about building relationships with people so that you can go further in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to find networking very intimidating. As I think as a fresh graduate years ago, I thought about networking and I started freaking out because I was thinking, I'm so introverted. How do I deal with meeting new people and networking with new people? And also, I find that I sucked at small talks. So these are kind of like some of the things that kind of intimidated me personally. I don't know about others because, obviously we have different personalities and, some are introverted, some are extroverted, might be different from person to person. And there are different kinds of networking, from what I took from your answer. So I guess the question here would be, how can networking in that sense really help us to grow our business or, grow the potential of having business connections, especially in the context of how we go about it? Because some people might find that it's really hard.
Yeah, so you have to get out and build relationships and get to know people. I believe that business is all about your relationships, and you can be really good at what you do, but if you don't have the right connections, you may not necessarily be able to climb the ladder. As far as feeling nervous and uncomfortable about it, I think most people are. So I think just recognizing that you're normal, there is not something wrong with you if going out networking makes you nervous, that will help. And also just exercising that networking muscle or building it up by actually getting out there and doing it, going to as many networking events as you can. And regardless of whether you feel nervous or uncomfortable, just keep doing it because familiarity breeds comfort. So the more you
Yeah.
do it, the
Yeah.
more comfortable you will become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I think it's a very simple lesson, but it takes practice to actually recognize that it works. When you start out, you might be terrified and you're kind of like, I really don't know how to get into this. And then, slowly you build the muscle, just like you work out at the gym. It's the very same thing. And I think another challenge that we might need to address here is, in the context of business, I know that there's so many kinds of business, and there are different kinds of connection you would need to make in each context of the business. So for someone who is starting out or is wishing to build meaningful connection for their business, they might struggle to identify who to network with and how to go about that, because if they go about that randomly, it might not really yield any results. So how do you think someone who is probably starting out in their business wishing to build connection can identify strong connections? How do they know where to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I personally believe there's value in networking with everyone because you're not just networking with that person in front of you, you're networking with everyone that they know. And we all know people. So, maybe they may not be able to help you directly, but they probably know someone that can. So, that's one approach. Another approach would be to do your research. There are tons of networking events out there. So you can research within your industry to find out what conferences are going on or what lunch and learns or networking mixers are happening in your industry, and then specifically go to those events. And also ask for introductions. Once you meet people within your industry, you can ask them, do they know someone that can help you in whatever topic or situation you need help in?
Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with you. There's value in all kinds of connections, and you never know, because somebody who is not a potential business partner today might change, and they might start something in 6 months' time. That might be a great partner for you, or might be a great client. I've heard so many wonderful stories like that as well. So it's great to hear that affirmation from you, and it's encouraging for any entrepreneurs, any business owners who might be kind of hesitant to network, to start, just building connections with anyone and everyone. And especially, like you said, doing research to go into the right space, go to the right event and meet the right people will also be very powerful, because I think oftentimes people just don't know where to start, like they kind of a little hesitant because I remember talking to someone, they're kind of like, oh, networking, okay, but where do I go? Who do I meet? Like, how does that work? So these are like very, very basic questions, right? But yeah, it all starts with research. And there's so many tools nowadays that could help us with this process. And, it's a digital world now. So I'm probably sure that in your program, in your work, you incorporate some of these elements somewhere. So what do you think to be some of the tools or, some of the things that we can use on the digital platforms that could help us with building connections?
Yes, well, obviously, social media. There are over 100 social media platforms now. So it's just unlimited. One of my favorite is LinkedIn uh, because it is really for a professional audience, people who are looking to either get a job or looking to grow their business by getting clients. There's options to do paid ads. And the same with Facebook. Research shows that Facebook is still the number one platform for businesses. And when you go to these networking events, you can go on these platforms and search the people that you met at those events and follow up. It's a great way to follow up by sending a friend requests and sending a little note saying it was nice meeting you. And then you become top of mind because when you make that connection on social media, that person is now going to see what you post. Because there's so much going on today, it's easy to forget about people. But when you're able to make those connections on social media, that can keep you top of mind. And then I would also recommend an email database. So MailChimp is a great tool. It's free. And of course, when you build up your subscribers, at some point they will start to charge. But I definitely recommend collecting those email addresses of people that you meet at events and then send out an email. You could create a newsletter and send that out once a month or once a week. But again, that's going to keep you on people's minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think you just gave us some really great tips there for entrepreneurs and business owners who would like to start building connection and nurturing connections, right? Because it's one thing to start a new conversation; it's another thing to keep the conversation going. And I've heard that it's also it's like as important to keep the conversation going as making new connections. Because if you just make, let's say, 50 new connections. Every month, but you don't follow up, then it's kind of a waste of effort, I feel. Especially since you've spent so much time and energy, investing in that relationship and building that connection, only to not follow up, and they might forget about you, right?
That's right. And research shows that 80% of people who go to networking events, they don't follow up. And you can't really get the impact of your networking unless you're following up. So that's really key. And that would probably be my biggest piece of advice, to make sure that you reach out to those people that you meet at networking events, whether it's an email, a phone call, a text message, or on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have this last question for you in this space now, because we've talked so much about, networking tips and tricks and, how to build and nurture strong connections. But we would love to know a success story from your own point of view, because, the things that we have discussed, they sound great, but they're all sort of theoretical. Now, I would love to know from your own experience, what is a success story from networking that you could share with us?
Absolutely. So, because I have an organization, I actually host networking events. And someone attended one of my networking events and they had a really great time. And so they went and told a corporation about my organization, specifically Dell Technologies. And I ended up getting a meeting with them, and they became one of our biggest sponsors. And that came from a networking event. And even our relationship with Comerica Bank happened the same way through networking, someone attending our events, enjoying them, seeing the value in them, and then making an introduction. So when people say business is about relationships, that absolutely is true because people want to do business with those they know, like, and trust. So you have to get out there and network and give people an opportunity to get to know you, to build a connection and like you, and then trust you to actually do business with you. Trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love that. And it sounds like two different success stories, actually, not just one. And it all comes from networking and because you're hosting networking events yourself. So, what I'm taking from this is sometimes you go to networking events and you make connections and you build strong connections for your business growth. Other times you can be the one hosting the event yourself. And, that would lead to even more connections and opportunities. And that's exactly what happened in your case, which is wonderful. I really love that.
That's right. And anyone can host a networking event, especially if you're a business owner. We have members who host networking events at their places of business. And the holidays are coming up. That's a great time to host a holiday party and invite out all your connections. So I would definitely recommend hosting your own events. And it's something that anyone can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you would have even more tips for anyone who would like to build their own network and start their own networking events. This is just the very beginning of a longer discussion. And I really hope that our audience today would follow up after they listen to this conversation and actually take some actions. So we've discussed broadly some of the theory and the example of success in terms of networking and building connection. Now let's talk about something a bit more practical that our audience can take home and maybe try today or next week, depending on when they have the opportunity to do so. Now, this part we call practices and habits, and we would love to know from your perspective if you're talking to someone. Let's say you're talking to a new business owner who is just starting out and they know that networking is important. They know that there are all these things that they can do to start out. What would be one practice that you recommend them to do so that they can start building strong connections?
Hmm. There's so many things that you can do, and this might sound strange, but I would say take a public speaking course because you may say, well, I don't want to speak in front of audiences, but I find that taking a course in communication skills, specifically public speaking, helps you across the board because it builds your confidence. And so when you go out to events and you're standing around and you may feel awkward, if you take a public speaking course, some of that awkwardness goes away. And not only can you do presentations in front of groups, but you're going to feel more comfortable one on one as well. So I would recommend taking a public speaking course, and you can also take soft skill courses in interpersonal communication skills. But it's definitely a skill. Networking is a skill that you have to continue to develop and nurture. And don't worry about if you're not good at it at first, because over time, you'll get better and better.
Yeah, absolutely. Practice makes perfect. And, we've talked about this, right? We really need to start out somewhere. And the more we practice it, the better we're going to be at it. I think the public speaking course is a really great one. Now I wonder which courses are out there. So we got to do some research here and, choose some courses that would work.
Oh, there are a lot of courses. Once you dive into it, you'll find them. College campuses are a great place to start. And you don't have to be a student at the campus to take courses at many of them, especially community colleges. You can look at the continuing education department. There's also an organization called Toastmasters International. They are worldwide, and you can sign up for a course anywhere in the world. And each week you go there and you sign up to deliver a speech. And it can be nerve wracking, but again, the more you do it, the better you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking about Toastmaster when you were saying that, oh, there's so many out there. I was like, oh, there's this thing. And I remember that we also have this in different suburbs in Melbourne as well. So it's very like widespread. It's everywhere. So pretty easy to get into that. So thank you for sharing. This is a great thing that our audience can start doing. And, if not taking a public speaking course, and I'm sure just finding ways to practice public speaking, finding opportunities to practice that would be really great, because oftentimes people are kind of hesitant when they are invited to speak, or even just to talk in front of 3-4 people, right? So this is a great opportunity, and I think even if it's not a formal education arrangement, we can actually build opportunities for ourselves, like practice in front of friends and families. If this is like a very, I would say like a lower risk way to go about it, because some people kind of like, oh, I don't really know how I'm going to talk in front of strangers. I think it would be great to maybe just practice in front of people first.
I agree. And one thing you can do is when you go to meetings or events, just ask a question. Just get used to talking in front of people. Maybe normally you stand back and you're quiet, but just think of a question that you could ask to practice speaking in front of, whether it's 3 or 4 people or 10 people. It's great practice, all of it.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great advice. Thank you. Now, we are drawing to a close. I'm a little sad because it's been a really great discussion so far. And I'm sure there's so much that we can learn from you within the duration that we have for the show. Obviously, we won't have as much time to dive deeper into other topics, but we do have one section called Open Mic. And this is your opportunity to share anything meaningful that you would like to share with our audience. This could be something from you that you would like people to know about, or, maybe just a message to our audience. So take it away, Dr. Allen.
Absolutely. So I'm going to talk about my passion project, which is the Entrepreneur Boot Camp and Certification Program that the National Entrepreneurs Association offers. It is a 9-week course that covers entrepreneurship from A to Z. And each week for 9 weeks, our students meet virtually, and we bring in a subject matter expert to talk to them about how you grow a business. We talk about marketing, finance, funding, legal issues that you may come across, technology. But I'm super proud of this program because I researched this for 4 years, and it just took a long time to create, and to see it come to fruition and become the success that it has is just really rewarding. And we are starting cohort 10 in January. And as you stated earlier, we've graduated over 250 entrepreneurs. The program gets rave reviews. And it's something that I created because it was a program that I wish I had when I started out as an entrepreneur. There's so much to learn, and the information is sort of spread out over different organizations. But this is one place where you can come and work with top-notch experts and get the information that you need to build a foundation to grow your business on. So that's what I'm working on. Every cohort, we make upgrades to the program based on our experiences and what we could do better and the feedback we get from students. And I expect that this program will be one of the number one programs in the world for entrepreneurs.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And congratulations on the 10th cohort starting soon. That's a really amazing milestone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much once again for joining us today. It's been a really great discussion about building meaningful connection, and I can clearly see that you are one of our meaningful connections. We really hope to stay in touch with you. We hope that our audience will reach out to you about, your programs, your certification programs, and networking events, and so on. And for us to be able to do that, I would love to get you to share how we can reach you, where we should find out about what's going on with you and your initiatives.
Yes, please connect with me on social media. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, now X, Instagram. You can also visit my personal website at ZaLonya.com or my nonprofit website at nationalentrepreneurs.org.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And thanks so much for joining us once again. I really hope that the lessons that you have told us today will stick with our audience. Hopefully, we'll hear some success stories from what they have practiced. And hopefully, we'll have you back some other time.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
You've been listening to Wealth Pathways, the Affluence Science Insights Podcast produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes are available from 10 life management perspectives and can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and other podcasting apps available on your devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, share, and subscribe to our channel so that other people can find it and we can continue to provide quality content. More of our work can be found on our website at affluence.lifemanagementsciencelabs.com, where you can join our movement. I'm Marie Stella. Thanks for tuning in.